Safe skies through purposeful leadership, professionalism and integrity in air safety management is what drives the vision and mission of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority under the leadership of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu. Being a regulatory body for the aviation in Nigeria, established by Decree 49 of the 1999 Constitution, it became a critical element in Nigeria's transportation systems and its economy. The NCAA has lived up to its expectations since commencement, and even better with the passing into law of the Civil Aviation Act 2006 by adequately regulating, monitoring, promoting safety, and being reliable, with the vision to be one of the leading civil authority in the world. And this, the leadership of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu is passionate in achieving.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is the apex and the sole regulatory body of the entire aviation activities. It's captured in the 2006 Aviation Act, which established the aviation industry, an act of parliament and signed into law by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It gives us regulatory power over the entire aviation industry, civil aviation industry in Nigeria, in areas of aviation safety, aviation security, and also economic regulation of the industry.
Coming at a time the world was on its knees due to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, with aviation sector as one of the worst hit sectors by the pandemic, he quickly hit the ground running to mitigate impact of the pandemic in the sector.
It is well known the air transport and tourism industry were probably one of the hardest industry by the COVID-19 pandemic. So many countries, including Nigeria, had to shut down their industry for a considerable amount of time to really mitigate the spread of the virus across the country and across different parts of the world. Thank God we were able to come out of it. We had to put measures for shutting down the industry and reopening the industry in a very organized, safe, and calculated manner.
And I think that's something that we should take great notice of in that happened during the period. I say starting from the Ministry of Aviation through the regulatory body, there was so much coordination that gave rise to partnership in the industry. They needed somebody, some agents, to pull everybody out from their own territory, because what happens before we will see in the industry is territorialism. Even among subsectors, the airlines, they will not want, we keep saying airlines should come together, and airlines do this, do that. They will not come. They prefer to remain in their territory. And sometimes you found it in also the agencies. Even when the agencies belong to the government, they are children of the same mother, you can see again some territorialism. But during this pandemic, what we noticed in the industry is that the industry was pulled up out of their territories, and they saw the need to come together.
It was really a challenging moment for us in Aviation House. And when I say aviation, I mean NCA, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. The reason being that the only thing we exist for is for that aircraft that is flying. If people are not traveling, it means nothing is coming to us as income. And we have staff to maintain, we have offices to maintain, we have obligations here and there to our vendors, to contractors, and of course to international agencies that we belong. There are obligations we have to make. So all of this became a challenge. Now, to staff, it became a big challenge paying have to pay the salaries. We don't want to throw people out there. We know what it means at this time. And so it was a very difficult time for everybody, including the NCA. But we thank God that today we are getting out of it.
His first engagement, which was on how to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, demonstrates his vast knowledge in crisis management and the onerous task to take the aviation sector to the next level.
The COVID protocols developed and implemented at various airports was a collaborative effort between various agencies, the Presidential Task Force, the Federal Ministry of Health, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, Public Health Services, in addition to Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and also in consultation with Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. We all sat down and brainstormed over a long period of time to develop these health protocols. And I must say, what we did in Nigeria was excellent. And we're one of the first countries to have come up with those health protocols implemented at the airports. And also the entry health protocols for foreign countries to Nigeria. What Nigeria adopted, although a lot of people in Nigeria criticize it, but at the end of the day, most countries in the world, including the so-called first world countries, adopted almost word to word what Nigeria implemented. So we did it was quite an extensive discussions and deliberations we had, and we came up with this. And that was what was used to restart the aviation industry in Nigeria. We started with the domestic airports, Lagos and Abuja, and gradually expanded it.
It will interest you to know what we put in place. Also, ICAO also was grappling with what needed to be done. And then we needed to have some kind of alleviations and exemptions. Like I told you, pilots need to have simulators. There is a requirement for a pilot that within a period of 90 days, you must do 3 takeoff and landings. But if there are no flights, if there's a complete ban on operation, how do we go about this? So all of this we put into place. We had some safety risk assessments that we had to get the operators to do. And also, we also have our own exemptions to allow some what we call alternative means of compliance.
These efforts yielded results towards protecting passengers and the public from the global health emergency, as so far no fewer than 41 advisory circulars relating to tackling spread of the pandemic have been issued by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority.
A very impressive plan because it took into consideration all the parameters that needed to be considered and gave a clear pathway for all the airlines to start. No one has operated under these conditions before, these COVID conditions, and there was a lot of confusion. But the way the NCA managed it, the way the DG managed it, using technology and having several online meetings where matters were discussed, views were taken, NCA went back, took all those views, took the regulators' view, turned it into a roadmap, came back to us, made it very easy for us to navigate.
The aviation security is another specialized area. We actually have a department fully staffed with qualified and experienced aviation security inspectors, and they were involved in the protocols because there were some challenges during when we were just restarting, and then the issue of how do you marry security with these health protocols. You're supposed to screen baggage items. The baggage items are being handled by individuals. How do you ensure that the items are not contaminated by somebody who is probably infected already, because it's going to pass through the screening. So some things had to be put in place initially, like to ensure the separation, and then there are some transparent bags where you put some items before it's being handled, so that you don't directly handle an item that has been handled by a passenger who it may not be manifesting as at that time could probably have been infected with the COVID.
With its headquarters successfully moved from Lagos to Abuja and the restructuring of directorates for efficient service delivery, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, under the leadership of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu, is ensuring adherence to quality procedures, standards, and specifications for air safety.
Yes, one good thing that informed restructuring is about being responsive. What do I mean? We, as an organization, we have got to a level of rating whereby we now belong to the premier airline, CA worldwide. So we got ratings by ICAO, we are up there. We got ratings from FAA, so we're a category 1 nation. You know what that means is that you are up there worldwide, and if you are up, it's a challenge to sustain it. Because the greatest, very terrible testimony anybody can have is that you used to be. There are countries that have got it and they have been out of the place. So the challenge now for us is to continue to remain in that Premier League of CA worldwide, which means we have to continue to look inward, look into our system, look into the staff, the training, and all of the qualification and all the rest. So this is basically a challenge to the authority, and that's informed whatever decisions the management is taking about restructuring. You want to restructure so that you continue to sustain the task of where you are, so that you will go down, because great nations have been out of category 1. At the moment, we're in the same category with CA of Canada, CA of US, where you have South Africa. That's where we are at the moment.
The administration of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu, since assumption to office, has sustained effective oversight through safety surveillance and strengthening of superstructures so as to sustain passengers' confidence for zero accidents.
Give it to our CAA. If you're talking about safety in aviation, the Civil Aviation Authority is almost directly proportional to safety. Why? They have the responsibility to ensure safety by doing regular oversight. Oversight is not only on aircraft, because a safe aircraft can crash on a dangerous airport. It can crash on a very inefficient airspace. So the airspace, the airports, and the airlines. So I find a responsible CAA here, unlike in the past, where the CAA, what will I say happened to them? They were gagged. They see what is right, and they couldn't speak it. In the last 2 regimes or so, the regime have been very professional. I'm not praising them. I'm not paid to advertise them. They do what they should do, even though we still have lapses. As the president of Aviation Safety Round Table Initiative, we still have some lapses, and at each time we point the lapses to them, they respond rather than ignore it. Because in Aviation Safety Roundtable, all of us there, we are practitioners. Some of us have retired, but not tired. Like in aviation, they will tell you, you are aging, but no corrosion.
In realization of improvements in the technology associated with remotely piloted aircraft system and inherent dangers to other users of airspace and persons on the ground, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has been working on a new set of regulations for a manned aerial vehicle and remotely piloted aircraft system and drone. While the new regulations are work in progress, the authority under the leadership of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu issued advisory circular interim guideline to promote the safe and orderly development of unmanned aircraft system operations within the country. Since coming on board, the administration of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu has continued to take decisive and strong approach to ensure all airlines operating within and outside Nigeria undertake safe, secure and comfortable operations while taking cognizance of passengers' complaints and discomfort by providing timely information about the nature and scope of the various complaints regarding delays, cancellations, tickets refunds, lost baggage, among others.
I want to assure the flying public that the safety record we've had over the last 8 years of non-accident will only get better as we move forward. The system will improve. We're doing all we can do with all the relevant stakeholders under the leadership of the Minister of Aviation who is implementing the government policies. We'll work with everybody to ensure that the system not only gets safer, it becomes more efficient and more effective. Of recent, there have been issues of consumer protection. We're looking into that. We ensure that all passengers are treated fairly and squarely, especially in areas when there are flight delays or flight cancellations. At this point, flight delays and flight cancellations are not peculiar to Nigeria. It happens everywhere. But I think what is important is how you deal with the passengers when these delays or cancellation happen. And we're looking into that. We ensure that full compliance with consumer rights protection as enshrined in regulations are complied with by all the passengers. In fact, the National Assembly has called us a couple of times due to the number of complaints, and we are working with all parties to ensure that the rights of the passengers are protected. But having said that, also the airlines have their own rights. The responsibility of the passengers to the airlines. We call on the passengers to try and get to the airport on time. We've had cases of passengers getting to the airport after the closure of boarding or checking in, and they make trouble. Or when they miss their flights, or when there are delays, they go about disrupting properties of the airports of the airlines. This is not acceptable. If we do that, we just make matters worse for everybody. So we call on the traveling public. We have our consumer protection agents in all the airports. If you have issues, complain to them. Some issues can be resolved on the spot. Some will take a little bit longer. We have a lot of complaints from passengers, which we are dealing with to ensure that also the passengers get fair treatment from the airlines. It's a two-way street. Everybody has responsibility. Everybody, both passengers and both airlines, must meet their own responsibilities.
It does not pay any operator to delay, keep his aircraft on ground. As a matter of fact, aircrafts are built to fly, and it's only when it flies that the business makes money. So if there is any reasonable reason for delay, whether it is weather, whether it's any other related issue, especially safety, these regulatory agencies are very, very, very particular about safety. There may have been some time when one or two occurrences or snags in the aircraft may be managed or ignored or not detected, but not with this current regulatory agency.
On economic regulation, the authority since assumption of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu remain committed not only to the financial audits of the airlines, but to also advise them regarding their areas of economic difficulties with a view to seeing how they can be tackled effectively and efficiently.
When you certificate an airline, it's on the premises they have demonstrated to you they are able to comply with your regulatory requirements. That's why we have different phases of certification. There are 5 phases. And I think phase 4 is where the airline will demonstrate what they have written on all their manuals. They're able to do this, they're able to comply with the regulatory requirements. They're able to show they can maintain their aircraft properly when due. And through our surveillance program, it could be audits, it could be spot checks, it could be inspections. To ensure that these airlines are in compliance with all these requirements. We've had issues as normal. I mean, nobody's perfect. We'll find some airlines wanting in some areas. We'll sit down, discuss with them, guide them, and assist them. And when cases are serious, we do actually sanction the airlines to ensure that they're in compliance.
To ensure function of the economic regulation is strengthened, more training is being provided for staff of the Directorate saddled with the responsibility.
Simulator training for pilots is required for commercial pilots every 6 months. And this is to ensure that because a lot of pilot skill, you need that some things that are supposed to be instinctive. They're not something that you have time when there's an emergency. You don't have time to start thinking. You're supposed to react and do what is correct. So in these simulators, they're able to practice some abnormal and emergency procedures, which are not normally advisable to use live aircraft to, because you may lose the aircraft if the reaction is not what's supposed to be or it's not timely. So this is the requirement for the simulator training. So when this thing was raging and we could not have access, we looked at, pilots that were active and then they were flying. The simulator as at that time was still valid, but they were going to expire, and those ones that recently expired. We gave an extension, some kind of exemption for the simulator to be extended beyond the 6 months. Initially, we give 3 months, then we had to add another, I think 1 or 2 months. But it is not that you are given that exemption without anything. Your airline has to do a risk assessment. What is the implication of you having not done this simulator within this period? And then you have to do what we call a ground school. A ground school where the airline puts you through the abnormal procedures, emergency procedures, and then you still do some kind of check rights by the training captains, oversight and supervised and monitored by the NCA, flight operations inspectors. This is just it's not exactly a simulator, but it's something to ensure that they are kept on their toes.
In the area of economic oversight of the aviation industry, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has continued to process, issue and renew air transport licenses and permits to ensure appropriate revenue generation.
Any investments made to support aviation brings also great return to the government. It's one of the industries that all the deductibles accruable to the government is from the source, and is highly controlled by the regulatory authorities. Every single ticket you sell in this industry, government has their own share. Every stop you make in any airport, government has their own share. So, and then it's a huge market that can also create more employment, because there are a minimum number of people that can work in an aircraft, whether it's starting from cabin, cockpit, the ground staff, So it's a win-win situation for Nigeria. So they need the support.
Through the established automated revenue collection platform in collaboration with the International Air Transport Association, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has improved revenue collection, eliminates leakages, and ensure transparency.
If you want to travel by air, I think one of the core areas, if not the core area, is NAMA. Because you need to have order and safety. NAMA provides the communication for the airplanes, will provide the navigation so they can go from point A to B, and will provide surveillance to make sure that they don't run into each other, and we guide them to be able to operate efficiently and safely, and we provide security.
The Honorable Minister is doing very well in the ministry, and he has support for his key positions people like DG NCA, MD Fund, MD NAMA. They are supporting the Honorable Minister and this AIB. You see, what they are bringing in the system is contributing a lot of us in our own business. That is why you see that our operation is going smooth, and there is a safety in the operation in the airline sector in Nigeria. So because of the contribution with the DGNCA and his co are given to the minister, that is why this thing is being happened.
We have very good relationship. Very good relationship because we are following rule and regulation of Nigerian civil aviation. So that's why we don't have any problem.
The authority under Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu intensify efforts in the certification and recertification of training organizations, conducting professional examinations for various personnel for issuance, revalidation, and renewal of licenses.
In the flying school, we train pilots from ab initio, from the beginning, to CPL, which is commercial pilot license with multi-engine rating and instrument rating. We call it standard pilot course. We run it for 2 years, after which a student will graduate. And we have air cabin crews that we train to become air cabin crew that will do the air hostess services on an airplane. We train air traffic controllers that carry out control of airspace, given permission for takeoffs and landings. And then we train maintenance engineers, those that will go out and maintain airplanes in companies and other private institutions. We also train aeronautical telecommunication. Those people train on the VOR, navigational aids, ILS, to enhance the safety and efficiency of flights. And we do have management school, which train people on aviation management, solely aviation management. And then the last but not the least, we have airport emergency training school, which is a new school within the college. It is going to take care of training people how to fight fire on airplanes, how to respond to emergency situations, etc.
For a pilot to fly, you must have a license issued by NCA. And for you to get the license, you must have been trained and qualified. You cannot just get trained as a pilot from anywhere, be in Nigeria, in Kaduna, Zaria, or you train abroad. You cannot just go into the pulpit if you are employed by an airline. The airline will present you to us as a staff. Then you go through our own exam, give you more to read and study, we give you what to slap or what to study, and give you the materials. When you pass the exam, they issue the license. They qualify you to start flying. And of course, you have the validity period, such that in 4 years again, before you can fly again, you must go for simulation. What is simulation? Refresher training. And when you go for that simulation, it's a practical experience. You go to where they have the machine, just the exact one, a replica, the simulator. It's a replica of that plane you are flying. And you must go through it and pass. before we renew the license. We call it revalidation. So if you fail the simulation where you went, then your employer puts you in office because we will not revalidate the license. And until you pass, and it costs dollars, heavy money. So you must be serious not to waste your employer's money. You must take it serious and be able to pass so that we can revalidate it for another period.
Training of standard pilot course. We have the training of cabin crew, and we have the training of SFO, just dispatcher course, and we do some other trainings that involves English proficiency for pilots and instrument recurrence.
Basically what the student comes in here for is that in INCAT we start with them on the simulator itself. There where you get to know all the switches, you know how the aircraft flies, and when you are proficient in managing the simulator itself, and we feel that you're proficient in that, we can now transfer you to the flight line where we will now fly the actual aircraft.
This is in addition to ensuring that aviation personnel are medically fit through examinations and review tests.
On the part of our personnel and our training, we are doing a lot working closely with the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, our regulators. And in that aspect is primarily the training and the attitude to work. And our training is up to date. We did a lot recently with the certification of our airports, a lot of very important improvements in our security and safety infrastructure and architecture. So those parts are well within our means. We have the competent personnel and the competent guidance from the Civil Aviation Authority.
It ranges from the managing of pilots, managing of cabin crew, from the maintenance aspect. From time to time, you have light checks that you do on your aircraft, and then the heavy checks also that you have to fly your aircraft outside the country. And then from time to time also, the pilots have to fly out of the country, go for the current training, which is the simulator. And for the cabin crew also, they have their own current training they do in Nigeria here.
Under the new administration of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu, there is high demand for air travels, a manifestation of confidence in the industry.
The patronage of and the expansion of making Nigerian airspace open, so we are having more travelers now across the country, and this is also having direct impact on the economy. So aviation prior to COVID was the second highest main factors that pushed our GDP to a greater height. And so this definitely has shown how aviation industry can impact all the socio-economic sectors of the economy of the country. And we have seen visibly this passenger rate from less than 9 million per annum rose to getting to 20 million, about 80 million. And this is a very high significant. Some international airlines do have more than 5 flights per day in the country. And we've seen a lot of emergence of new airlines coming in. So new airports on daily basis, new airports and helipads and airstrips are opening in the country. And this shows really how fertile the industry is and the impact being made also, I think it's never experienced in the country so far.
It plays a whole lot of role in economic development. Transportation is critical for people to move about and do their business. When it's not the ground transportation, the train, or the ship, which is not really available here, then it's the air. And with the nature of our roads and insecurity in Nigeria, to some, air travel is highly preferred. So I think that moving forward and looking into the future, with a very special attention from the government, the right policies, especially monetary policies that will support accessibility to foreign exchange.
United Nigeria Airline and Airline Group were all granted Air Operator Certificate for scheduled flight operations, while no fewer than 4 other airlines are waiting in the wings to hit the air in grand style.
United Nigeria Airline is the first COVID air operating certificate issued in Nigeria, and secondly, the first air operating certificate, AOC, issued by the current management of NCA led by Captain Nuhu. We are privileged. They had come into the industry with a lot of standards, very high standards, that are equal to all the international parameters that are known in the industry. No surprising, recently, ICAO has rated Nigeria as one of the safest areas of aviation in the world. It is because of the standard and strict supervision and implementation that is in place by this current administration.
On industrial harmony, the Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu administration brokered peace between ARIC Air Management and national leadership of workers' unions.
The NCA under Captain Musa Nuhu, when they see, and he accepts also, that NCA being made up of human beings, there are bound to be mistakes too from their own side. There's always a learning process, not just for the operators, but also the regulator. And when he notices such infractions, he rises up to the situation and corrects it. So there are some people in NCA who believe they are lords, and they can lord it over everybody, even ultra wires, the NCAS, the Nigerian Civil Aviation regulations. So there are people like that who try to do stuff. But the good thing is that the NCA stops them in their tracks. Or when the airlines bring complaints in such regards to the knowledge of the leadership, they step into it. So, but if you ask me to score NCA now, I'll score them 95%. I'll leave 5% to the human errors that may occur at any given time, irrespective of whether you're FAA or EASA.
From the beginning, since I became this MD of FAN, I would not even call it 1% issue with any agency of government or the ministry. Because even before I came on board, they've always been operating as a system. And FAN, NAMA, NCA, NAMID were all parts of the system. You can call these subsystems. We complement each other. No service is independent or alone. Their services work with us to complement, ours do the same. So even when there are areas where you must have the tendency or possibility of conflict or lack of harmony, it never progresses beyond the initial stage. The leadership makes sure that it doesn't happen that way. So we have full synergy, full understanding and cooperation with the agencies under the guidance of our parent ministry, the Federal Ministry of Aviation.
As part of the mandates of the authority to increase performance base, efficiency and industry harmony, Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu has continuously been engaging leadership of the workers' unions to engender harmonious working relationship with staff, even as training and retraining of staff remain topmost on his priority list.
NCA has shown an increasing profile. Every day its profile has been on the rise. And I think that all the people, the managers, the principal train managers have gone through the NCA have been point blank in their own understanding of the industry. From the Mumure through Usman and to Nuhu. The exposure of principal managers of NCAA is such that there are so much integrity to regulation in the industry. We have moved away from the quagmire of the past, so that today one can beat his or her chest and say, we have a regulatory body that can stand shoulder to shoulder with other regulatory bodies of the world in the aviation sector.
Senator Hadi Sirka is an aviation person. He's a pilot and he's an aircraft maintenance engineer. So if I speak to him, we speak the same language, he understands. And he's an excellent politician too. So all those things come together to get the job done. And to be honest, I couldn't have asked for a better boss, because the support he has given NCA, I don't think any DG has had the support I get from the current Honorable Minister of Aviation. We have been able to do a lot of things because of his support. You cannot ground 10, 15 private jets that in violation without getting into serious trouble in the past. But we've done it now. We have made people comply with the law, irrespective of who you are. And without the political support, you can imagine how difficult it is. Phone calls will have gone 1 or 2 and you'll be ordered to reverse, but he has refused that. He's given us the playing field to implement our regulations as is, without fear or favor. So he has been a great supporter of us, and a lot of the programs we're implementing, he fully supports it and helps us get the resources to implement those.
Though it is work in progress, while keeping his eye on the balls, the quintessential aviator is working to ensuring that the Nigerian air transport industry continues to retain its attractiveness for tourism and other endeavors.